Hello and welcome back to another episode of Stateside Market Report, which we're coming up with a new name for because we have tips and tricks too. Have we come up with a new name yet?
I haven't thought about it.
All right. Tim Robinson, Brian Naylor, Stateside Residential. We're here to inform you about the market and all things buying and selling real estate in the DC area. Today is our week about tips and tricks. Is that right? Week
That's
three of the
it.
month? All right.
That's
So we're going to do tips and tricks today. We're going to talk about a little thing we like to call the get out of jail free card. For those of you that played Monopoly a lot when you were kids, like me with my grandma, it is a contingency that is baked into our contracts in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we use that in negotiations and the ability to sometimes waive other contingencies because this one is a fail-safe in many cases and use that to quote unquote get out of jail free. And by jail, we mean a bad contract that you no longer want to pursue. Bryant, I'm going to throw it out to you and just get your initial thoughts on how we use that condo HOA doc, get out of jail free card pretty often.
Yeah. Our get out of exactly. Our get out of jail free card is the HOA condo doc review period, which is from the day that we actually receive, we go under contract, and from the day we actually receive the condo docs or the HOA docs, the same thing, same package. In Virginia, we have 3 days to review the condo docs, and the good thing about this little review period is you can walk away from the contract for any reason you want. There really is you don't have to give them a justification like and explain to them why we didn't like the condo docs. Whatever. We just be like, we didn't like the condo docs, so we're getting out of the contract. You get your deposit back. We just go reset back at zero and go back and move on to the next property or something. So, we use this we've used this every time there's a condo HOA for the property. So just recently I had a client buying a condo, and a lot of the times when you get under contract, they have the condo docs right away. So they basically, you get under contract and they'll send them to you right away because the listing agent knows this is the get out of jail free card. We want them to look at it right away, before they have a chance to do the home inspection, before they have a chance to come find another property. But this one in particular, they didn't have them. So we went through the home inspection, we went through the appraisal, we went through a few other things before we even received the condo docs.
Wow.
And then we had our 3 days. Luckily, like, the condo association was phenomenal. They're just really well managed condos, so there was no red flags, and we moved forward and closed. But at that point, if the condo association was, like, for example, operating in the red, or they just were very disorganized, or they had legal, like, litigations or anything, we could have gotten out of that contract that far
After the
into
appraisal, after the inspection, everything.
Everything, right? So when we use the term get out of jail free card, we legitimately mean that.
Right.
It's not like, oh, are you sure we can get out? Like, we 100% can get out of a contract because of that. Yeah. So that's something good to know.
So let's take one step back. We refer to condo and HOA docs. I guess we should have described what that is. So if you buy within a homeowners association or a condominium, the listing agent is required to provide you with all of the documents associated with that association. So you're going to get rules and regulations. You're going to get the books. You're going to get to see the budget. You're going to get to see the actual P&L, the profit and loss statement. You're going to get to see meeting notes if it's a really good, well-run HOA. All these things the lender wants to look at to make sure that the condo or HOA is maintaining its financials well and run smoothly. So we want to see that. The lender wants to see that. It's a big package. It's called the resale package that we get. And in Maryland, we have 7 days to review that. So how do we use that sometimes in negotiations is we are able to sometimes waive other contingencies. So for instance, some of my clients have gotten properties because we do what we call a inspection for informational purposes only. So we essentially do not make the contract contingent upon the results of the inspection, but we get an inspection, we get the report, we can look for big deal breakers, foundation issues, roof issues, major systems failures, stuff like that. And then we can use kind of the backdoor route of the condo or HOA docs and just say we're canceling because we don't like paragraph 13 subsection A, or we don't like the condo docs, and we can get out based on that inspection if we want to. So it is really a good kind of backstop for all things. It's a good way that's built in. Even if you waive other contingencies, we can always get out on that. But then it really comes down to what you said, Brian, is when do you receive it? If you receive it on day one, you still only have 7 days to pull out in Maryland, 3 days in Virginia. If you receive it way late in the contract, then you're good to go. So it is one of those things where an agent that knows the contract is really well suited to be able to negotiate better on your behalf. Because some people just don't know how that works. They're like, "What do you mean? What about the condo docs don't you like?" And I say, "It doesn't matter what I don't like. My client doesn't like it. We're
Yep.
pulling out of the
Exactly.
contract. Like, I don't have to highlight what it is. Like, we are pulling out because of the condo docs. Period." And that can be for any reason. So it's just, as buyers agents, we've talked about this before. Our job is to get our clients a property they love at a price they like with as many exit ramps prior to closing as possible. Whereas a listing agent's really just trying to close off those exit ramps and not let us out of the contract. So this is one that's built in that we don't have to negotiate for. It is by law required, which is really good. It's really good for the buyers.
Yeah, and we just have to act within the HOA kind of that period, that window. So for like say for Virginia, 3 days, very quickly. So if we get the condo docs and we waived home inspection and you want to do one for informational purposes only, or they allow us to do that, we have 3 days if we receive the condo docs on day one to get somebody in there, get the results back, take a look at them to make sure we're okay with them before that. Because once that 3 day review period ends, the off ramp is closed. Like it's
Exactly.
behind us. We can't get off of it anymore. Yeah, we're moving forward. So,
Right.
so I didn't realize it was 7 days for Maryland. I don't have my
Yeah.
Maryland license. So
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
that's a
It's we
long.
have a
That's 7 days of
little bit more
sweating.
leeway. Yeah, right. And in DC, I think it's 5. So
I
it's
think
I
it
get them
is
mixed
5
up.
in DC. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's long. So Virginia is very quick, but Maryland we have 7, which is nice. It's just kind of that grace period. And I always encourage my clients to actually call the condo and HOA because these documents are thick and they're
Yeah,
very
they're
boring.
two,
And
300, 400 pages sometimes.
yeah, and it's one of those things where like we as agents can interpret it as best we can, but I don't leave it open to just interpretation. So I always encourage every single client to call them and speak to someone at the condo association, speak to someone at the HOA, get the specific answers you need, and build that rapport. Like you own the property now for 30 years. You're gonna have to speak to these people. I'm not. So I always encourage that personal communication and just, get the vibes, like, do you feel like you're going to get competent answers from these folks? Are they timely in their responses? Are they professional?
Yep.
And if they are, you feel good about it. If they're not and they're just like, I don't know, I'll get back to you. Feel it out, like, cause you're going to have to come to these folks with complaints.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think that's a whole nother episode is us talking
that is a whole
about
nother episode.
like
Yeah,
what
that's
like
true.
getting into the condo docs, what we look for and advise our clients on. There are a few things that we really concentrate on when we're looking through there. And there's a few things that we can talk to you about, but it really comes down to your comfort level. And then we'll
Yep.
we'll talk to you about that. Say, this is something that you need to be comfortable with. I can't make that decision for you. All condo associations are different. Let's just make sure they appear to be operating above board and they're not going to collapse and anything like that. So, and other than that, it's if with the rules and regulations, you have to go sit there. I can talk to you about how other ones I've seen are structured but
Yeah.
ultimately they have to make that decision themselves. So anyways, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole another episode. So the teaser, we'll put that on the buying and selling process for one of our updates. I like that. I like that. So condo docs, the get out of jail free card. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Stateside Residential Market Report / new name imminent. We'll get there. With Tim
Maybe.
Robinson and Brian Naylor. Schedule a call with us if you have any questions. We're happy to talk you through this. And until next week, I'm signing off for me and Brian.
Thanks, guys.